a suspect. Hanging with the killers in the projects. Taylor on a barrel, keep quiet. Catch a nigga slipping from behind. OG Bobby Johnson. OG Bobby Johnson. OG Bobby Johnson. OG Bobby Johnson. Put nigga out like an outbreak. Chopper start to make the house shake.
What it do, sugar lumps? It is me, Keisha, and I am here with a behind the scenes TV video on showrunner and creator Katori Hall's breakdown of PValley season 2 episode 7. This has become a weekly thing for us. She gives us all the insight on the episode, all of the questions and symbolisms that we probably miss or need answers, all the Easter eggs. So let's get into her tweets. Her first tweet says, before there was the Pynk, before there was Ernestine's, there was the Beautiful, a cotton mill turned juke joint in the river town of Chucalissa, located in northern Mississippi, an hour and a half from Jackson. Here, production designer Jeff Pratt Gordon chronicles the Pynk of yesteryear. And I loved everything about that montage scene of seeing how it used to be back in the days of like the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, the dancers, the whole thing was just beautiful to see Loretta Devine on stage singing. It was just glorious. And to learn the history of the Pynk, to learn that it was originally the Beautiful, then it was Ernestine's when it got handed down to her, and then when it got handed down to Clifford, it became the Pynk. So that was really dope to see. She also wanted to inform us that the color pink is our anchor as we follow grandmother Ernestine through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Costume designer Tiff the stylist uses a feather boa as a baton Uncle Clifford inherits, and from beehives to jerry curls at Arlene Martin HRS served up black hair in all its glory. And she really did. She gave us the beehive, the big pageant curls, the afros, the jerry curls, the costuming, the hairs, everything was done beautifully. Like everybody really stepped their pussy up. Next up, she wrote hashtag PValley fun fact. Though Until You Can Come Back to Me is known as an Aretha Franklin classic due to her stunning vocals, but Wonderkind, Stevie Wonder, is who penned the lyrics. Loretta Devine served us pretty fire with this song, and she did a great job. I mean, you know, Loretta Devine is legendary when it comes to the vocals and the acting. She is a black institute, a black icon. Like, she is just everything, and it has been such a pleasure to see her on such an iconic show excuse me, and to see someone of her caliber still be in the business, still booking gigs, still working, still staying booked and busy after being in the industry for literally about 40 to 50 years now. I mean, that's incredible. Katori then explains Uncle Clifford has been called that since she was 3 years old. The old folks say that baby done been here before. We have all heard that in the black community. And it might be true of this old soul who played at the knees of grown-ups at this club and learned about life and loss so young. And that's some real true tea, because, you know, we've all heard that statement used in the black community that, oh, that baby done been here before, and because of how babies, you know, act so older and learn things and progresses and the sass and all of that stuff. I was told that as a kid. My son was told that as a kid. But most of all of that, if people pay attention, comes from, like she said, kids sitting at the knees of adults and learning about life and overhearing things, because I was that type of child that was in the room when my grandmother would be talking to her girlfriends or gossiping or talking about what's going on, and I'm learning and hearing about things that honestly I ain't had no business hearing and learning, but it taught me a lot very fast about people, about life, and so much stuff. And I honestly think that it's a good thing, not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? To learn quickly about certain things, because it helps you, and it helps you to protect yourself at an earlier age. And it teaches you how to navigate life, friendships, all of those types of things. Grandmother Ernestine's COVID-induced fever dream was one way that at PValley writers created opportunities for backstories. In Jackson, that's the name of this episode, watch how memories and flashbacks operate as haints and spirits, as all of our characters are haunted by people and events from their lives. And with grandmother, it was her father she kept on mentioning, her daughter. With Lil Murder, it was Big Teak. With Haley, it was her daughter. With Mercedes, it was Patrice. Did Clifford face anything? Well, I guess the memory of his mom, I guess you would say that. But yeah, they did a really good job of bringing in past storylines and showing how it affects these characters in present day. Then she gives us some behind the scenes tea on the actress that played Beulah, who is Uncle Clifford's mother. She says, introducing Niall, I hope I'm saying her name right, Allie, as Beulah, Uncle Clifford's beloved mother, who has since passed on to the other side. Hashtag PValley fun fact. Naya Haley, I'm going to call her Naya, child, developed the part of Mercedes in several workshops over Pussy Valley's play development at the Lark, the public and arena stage. So this woman has been involved since the beginning. Like, she helped develop who we see now as Mercedes. So that's really dope that Katori has not forgotten about the people that she worked with from the beginning and giving them opportunities as well on the show and not just on the stage. I feel like that was really, really dope. And I hope that we get more flashback scenes in the future of Uncle Clifford's mother. So in the scene where we see Beulah present herself to her mother as an angel, basically coming to take her home, Katori writes that Beulah holds an Ernestine special, a dirty martini made of sour pickle juice with a peppermint stick, inspired by my fave Southern snack. Superstition goes that in your dreams, you're not supposed to take anything to eat or drink from the dead, least you want to stay alive. I have never heard of that in my life. Now it got me scared, wondering if I've ever dreamed about anybody that is deceased in my family giving me food in a dream. Lord Jesus, Katori, you done scared the shit out of me now. Anytime I'm in a dream now and I see food and my grandmother or somebody in it, baby, I ain't eating it. I ain't eating it. But that was just so dope too to me, how she used pickles and peppermint sticks, because you know that's a hood classic. Get you a pickle and put a peppermint down the middle and eat it. And I never liked it. I only did it because everybody else did it as a child, but I never liked that combination. But to see that Ernestine made a drink out of it is so cute to me. He also explains that Uncle Clifford's costume of money visually articulates the internal fight she is having of wealth versus cultural legacy, which the pink represents. 10 meals sure sound good in the middle of a pandemic, but what is the actual cost of Black folks' culture, especially in the South? And that is what Haley does not understand, that it's more than about money. It's about legacy. This is about something that a family built over years and years of time. It's about memories. It's about the opportunities and jobs that were given to people. It's about the hard work that was put into sustaining it. It's about it being a Southern staple. It's about the culture. And she doesn't understand that because she's never had a family. And that's the issue with Haley. And the only family she ever had is now gone. So she doesn't look at the Pynk and look at it as a familial institute. And she doesn't see Uncle Clifford and them as her family yet, for real. She still looks at this like a business transaction. And until she begins to embrace them as family, she won't understand or get that. It'll still always be about money for her. But I believe, of course, over time, she will grow to look at them as family, treat them as family, and want to hold on to the Pynk as much as everybody else does. He also goes on to say the battle over the Pynk ultimately is a battle of grief. Uncle Clifford wants to protect the Pynk as the impending loss of Ernestine looms large, and Haley wants to sell so the death of her child over the amount it costs to save the Pynk won't be for naught. And, you know, she said that, she voiced that, but like he had to remind her, your daughter is gone. So you getting all the money in the world ain't gonna bring her back, love. It's not going to bring her back. And then for Uncle Clifford, he knows that it's about to be the end for his grandmother. He wants to hold on to the last piece of her, which is not only the Pynk, but, you know, her home and everything else. So it's a really hard thing to watch Uncle Clifford go through, because he has struggled, as we saw since season 1, with the loans and all the debts and everything that he's gone through to keep the Pynk open. She also tweeted, to see a pregnant 14-year-old Terica standing in the middle of the bedroom Mercedes been designing for her only little girl is one of the ways we use production to design to underscore conflict. Little girl lavender and dolls are a sharp visual juxtaposition to a baby bump, showing that my baby having a baby. Ain't this some shit? Like, you're still a child yourself and you're having a child, and the cycle continues. Like, and Mercedes wants so bad to break this cycle of teenage pregnancy from being, you know, in her family and being a young black mom and all of these things. And it's just like a baby having a baby, and it's just sad to see and watch, because Terica thinks that she's old enough and grown enough and mature enough to be able to handle having a baby, and she has no idea what being a mother really truly entails. Lil Murda's grief is titanic. However, he doesn't turn to a therapist, but to Uncle Clifford, who asks no questions, burning Murda's clothes in an attempt to destroy assumed evidence and proving just how much of a bottom bitch she is. Yes, ma'am, I'm gonna hold my nigga down. I'm gonna stick beside him. That's what Cliff said, even though he ain't killed nobody this time, girl. But you had his back like a damn bitch does and should, okay? And it goes to show how much Lil Murda trusts Cliff with all things. You know, he knows that he would have his back regardless, and that he wouldn't turn on him despite them not even speaking at that point. So that showed a lot about their relationship with each other and how much love and trust is there, even though they have not said the L word to each other yet. It's obvious that they do love each other. Even though Ernestine is blind, she knows the smell of blood as someone who has witnessed bloodshed and clocks the death of Big Teak on Lil Murda. Death is in the air, literally and figuratively, haunting abound. That's some deep shit. That really is some deep shit. So that mean over time, Ernestine didn't had to body a few niggas herself. Or she done been around some shit, honey. And, you know, in this episode, it was death looming. Not only her going and crossing over and knowing that she's about to die, but also the looming death of Big Teak still looming around and hovering over Lil Murda. So I mean, the genius of this show, I just love it. At the end of 206, Ernestine called out, "Is that you, daddy?" Remember when she went to the door and Lil Murda was at the door? She was like, "Is that you, daddy?" Okay, so she says, when Lil Murda arrived to the front step, when a person is close to death, they begin to see and hear those on the other side. From Beulah to Isaac Hayes, it's clear she is communing with the dead. And when she said, "Is that you, Isaac Hayes?" you know, a lot of people took that as a joke, you know, but no, remember, she knew a lot of celebrities back in the day. So that's why she was actually seeing or feeling him in the room. Then we get to Keyshawn, and she writes, "Black girls do bruise," as we see Derek's anger reflected on Keyshawn's face. This season, masks go beyond articulating the pandemic, but also speaks to larger themes of appearance versus reality, which all of our female characters know well as strippers. That's some deep shit right there too, child. Go ahead on, Katori. And then last but not least, she writes, "When Murda first came to the door in season 2, they both had on red," meaning him and Clifford. "This was intentional to infuse the frame with the color of passion." Ooh, great visual work. But the second time Lil Murda is covered in blood, a reminder that tragedy is what has led to this moment of healing for them both. Oh, I just love all the symbolism in this show. that is one of the key things that you have to do when telling stories via film. You can of course we all know you can tell a story via words, but with symbolism, through clothing, through the set, through music, those are also ways to tell your story. And that was just so dope and creative. He also tweets, Uncle Clifford being non-binary in the world of Chuckalisa, akin to being a unicorn. The way she has always traversed through this southern landscape is revolutionary and lonely all at once. And that's what she meant by, her being a star and shining so bright, and a lot of people can't handle that. And that meant, a lot of people can't handle her and her truth and who she is, because a lot of people in this world are afraid to be who they are. They're so tied up in what their family thinks, what the world may think, what their friends may think, that they're afraid to really truly be themselves and be comfortable in their skin. So for a person like Uncle Clifford, who is unafraid to be unapologetically her, that has caused her to be lonely, caused her to not have friends, caused her to be ostracized in her community because of who she is. So that was just so deep. The conversation of passing brings into sharp relief Lil Murda past struggle of having his gay not be clockable due to his hypermasculine gender performance. It is a vulnerable moment as both try to define their sexual and gender identities to each other. And it's also, that scene just showed us that, Lil Murda doesn't really know who he is. Therefore, going back to Clifford knowing who she is, standing firm in who she is, being comfortable with who she is, Lil Murda has yet to really know who he is as a person, because he has tried to go about living his life based upon the standards of his neighborhood, hyper masculinity, like she said, being ultra tough and rough to disguise the fact that he likes other men, and in his community it's looked down upon. So he doesn't really know what he is, what he likes, or anything, because it's almost like Lil Murda is a character. Like, who is he? Like, who is LaMarcus? So I love that. Being in the closet has been a metaphor for queer folks for ages. To see Uncle Clifford rifling through hers to give Lil Murda something of her own to wear allows them to finally begin healing the wounds his dismissal of her on murder night caused. And as you know, the night of murder night, Lil Murda was not ready or willing to out himself. He chose to deny Uncle Clifford as being his lover and the person in his life, because was so busy trying to live up to this image that he has created for himself. And when Uncle Clifford was giving him an outfit, and Lil Murda was like, "Oh, I bet you used to look fly, like, fly in this back in the day." And he was like, "These are clothes from trade of Christmas past," meaning other men that she has dealt with in the past that were closeted as well, and she still has keepsakes from them. So that was able to open the door of them, like she said, healing from that night when he was hurt so deeply by Lil Murda. So now we get to the part where she explains Ernestine and the time we have with her when she escapes from the house in a fever pitch, literally, and they have to go and find her when they find her at the river. So Katori says Ernestine's desire for water is a thirst for spiritual salvation. Having never been baptized, she seeks the cleansing power of the Mississippi, but she is stopped by Lil Murda and Uncle Clifford. So it really wasn't a thing of her trying to get to the water to cool down or to cleanse herself. She was, like she said, going to the water for spiritual salvation, to get closer to God, to cleanse herself of her sins before she made her way on to the other side. She also says sound design and composition by Matt Head Music underscore the siren song of the River Jordan as we hear Beulah's raspy alto beckoning for Ernestine to come home. With Ernestine too weak to walk towards the water, Lil Murda continues his role as a death doula. And I just had an aha moment. Let's continue. She says, with his white tank and blonde hair made platinum beneath the high noon sun, he looks the part of an angel, taking her bonnet, plunging it into the river, and baptizing her, and perhaps being cleansed himself, as this was the same river Big Teak took his own life. I did not even put two and two together that was the same spot that they were at a few nights prior when Teak took his own life. That explains why the camera slowed when Lil Murda was at the water and he had his hands plunged into the water and he was staring off into space, because it was all coming back to him that night, this moment. And it was a moment of him not only cleansing and baptizing Ernestine, but baptizing himself, really, and coming to grips with what happened, or trying to come to grips with what happened previous nights with earlier with Big Teak. Now it all makes sense. I love how they slowed the camera down and had him staring off into space like, oh my God. He knew that, death was approaching for her. And that's why later on, when Clifford doesn't want to say goodbye, he would say say goodbye, Cliff, because he knew what was happening and he had to be there to support him through that and prepare him through that difficult moment and that difficult time that was sure to come. Katori also elaborates on the abortion scene between Mercedes and Terica. So she says, haunted by her mother, Mercedes comes face to face with her own childhood in Jackson. Patrice, not believing in abortion, forced 15-year-old Mercedes to have Terica, then relinquish custody to the father, a complicated circumstance for Cortez being over 18. So that was why she ended up keeping Terica. She herself wanted to go to Jackson and have an abortion, but her mother wouldn't allow her to because she didn't believe in abortions. But if Mercedes had been given the choice at 15, she would have aborted Terica. That's why that scene at the door in the hotel is a full circle moment when Terica says, I'm not going to be like you, a shell. My child ain't going to never have to worry or wonder if her mama wanted her to be aborted. And Mercedes was like, that was the choice that I would have made, but I'm thankful for you every day. And things worked out where the devil was trying to use this as a weapon, but it ended up being a blessing from God. So it ended up working out in her favor, even though at the time she would have chose differently, but it ended up working out for her betterment to be who she is as a person now. So that's why it was so prevalent that she finally came to the decision that I don't need to be like my mother. I cannot force her into doing something she does not want to do. I have to allow her to make the choice. I have to give her the option that I never had with my own mother, which was a beautiful full circle moment that Katori was able to write. And Patricia ass ain't shit because you don't believe in abortion, but it was all right for you to trick your daughter out. It was okay for you to literally whore your daughter for y'all to get by, for money, for whatever. But no, don't be out here having sex on your own and get pregnant, because that's a sin. Girl, fuck Patrice. Fuck Patrice. Fuck Patrice. Fuck Patrice. I cannot stand her character. She also wrote, at PValley writers wanted to explore the anguish of this forced choice and having Patrice act as a haint the entire episode to articulate the power she has on Mercedes even now. Desperate to be different, Mercedes holds space for her daughter to walk a path towards choice. And I really cannot wait to the time when Mercedes' character is able to not have that spirit, that monster over her shoulder where she's constantly haunted by her mother and the things that she said, the choices that were made for her, the manipulation, the betrayals and everything. And when she's finally really able to stand on her own 2 feet as a woman and finally cleanse herself and rid herself of the hold that Patrice has on her. While we don't name the clinic, the inspiration is the Pink House, or the Jackson Women's Health Org, at the center of the Dobbs case, which led to the overturning Roe versus Wade. When this episode was written and filmed in 2021, we had no idea it would become a period piece. And that just goes to show you what foreshadowing does, and you being careful of what you write and what you say. Remember, you speak life and death with your tongue. So she didn't even know when writing this a year ago that when this show premiered a year later, that we would actually be fighting for our reproductive rights as women, which is crazy to me. But when I had my abortion and I went to Planned Parenthood with my mom, I remember protesters standing outside or whatever. It was a few of them, wasn't a lot. But I just remember that experience and walking in there and at 16 and I couldn't believe that this was me. This was my life and that I was about to do something like this. I was also shocked because, growing up, especially here in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, we always looked at abortions as a black girl thing. Like, white girls ain't out here getting pregnant as teens as much as black girls are. And I was shocked to see so many young white girls in there getting abortions. And this was in 1998. And I was shocked. I was like one of maybe 2 or 3 black girls, and it was a sea of white girls with their mamas. And I was shocked about that. And I guess that goes back to why these white people, these white males, are trying to ensure that their legacy, white supremacy, continues on, because these white girls are not having babies like they used to. And now they're really trying to force white supremacy and the white population being the number one ethnicity in the United States. And it's just sick, and it's just rooted in hatred and evil. And this world is just disgusting. Katori then goes back to Lil Murda and Uncle Clifford at the crib after Ernestine has been taken to the hospital. And she writes, in desperate need of cheering up, Little Murda does what he can for Uncle Clifford. Going into the closet, and that's shrouded in quotations, he comes out a new man. Remember the pink boa. In an episode with no club scene, Murda keeps the torch of dancing burning with his funny Magic Mike strip tease. And we would have never in season 1 saw Lil Murda have a moment where he literally has on lace gloves, a pink boa, and metallic pants, and dancing for Uncle Clifford. But that was his moment of finally coming out of the closet, literally, for his boo thing, and to, put somebody else's needs and wants in front of his. I'd love that so much. These two lovebirds have been pining for each other. Actual grief and pending grief collide in a transcendent moment of intimacy, creating a cocoon in Uncle Clifford's lair, far away from the world of judgment. That love scene was beautiful. Beautiful. For anybody out there that got a problem of seeing two black men making love on television, fuck you. Get over it. That was a beautiful scene to see two people that love each other, that were trying to be there for one another. One trying to be there for somebody that she knows was going through some form of grief. She doesn't know really what happened, but she just knows that the person that she loves is hurting and she needs to be there for him. And then on the flip side is Lil Murda basically trying to support and be there for the person that he loves, who is about to go through the same thing he is going through right now. And to see black love in that form on television was just beautiful. To see Lil Murda drop his guard and really become vulnerable in a way he has never been probably vulnerable with another man was just, it was breathtaking. It was just done beautifully, tastefully. It was just fantastic. Chef kiss to both actors in this scene. Katori also goes on to say, in a world where HIV is still a threat, them deciding to not use protection is an articulation of trust, much the same way during this time of COVID, choosing not to wear a mask. Sadly, both viruses continue to have a disproportionate impact on Black communities. Ain't that the truth? She says the fact that there is an implicit confirmation of negative status for HIV for both parties allows for their consummation, to proceed. At PValley's writers went back and forth about whether or not this would break scene flow, but decided it was a necessary exchange. Oh, I 100% agreed with whoever was in the writing room that said that this moment needed to take place about, stopping the love scene to talk about whether or not they should use contraceptive. I personally think that it was a genius idea to include that, because every time we have seen Lil Murda on screen have a sexual encounter, he has always pulled out a rubber to show how serious he is about protecting himself. So in this scene, it's not only about protecting himself from any type of diseases or anything like that, as well as whoever he's having sex with. It was also showing how willing he was to be 100% open and free and vulnerable with Clifford. So I think that was wonderful to show that they both are very conscious of contraceptive, who they sleep with, and everything. I think that was a genius thing to keep into the storyline. Katori also says, and very reflective of these two characters who have consistently used protection. Furthermore, Lil Murda being the more adamant condom user and also being the receiver, we wanted to show a deep trust of his partner for better or worse. Exactly what I just said. And I didn't even read that before I just said what I said. But yes, that was beautiful. She also goes on to say, usually the giver, Lil Murda's willingness to be versed for his lover in the intimate missionary position reflects a desire to be open, finding power in vulnerability, coaxing his lover to climax with naughty words, freeze both into a cascade of mutual pleasure. Girl, you just said everything I said, but in a way more articulate way, girl. Go ahead on, Katori. She then says, Love by Kendrick Lamar scores the moment Lil Murda and Uncle Clifford reconnect. Their relationship started in a heated place, on back couches and over jukeboxes, and now in Uncle Clifford's lair, they actually make love. Oh my God, I love them so much. She says the next morning, Lil Murda wants to confess about Big Teak, but becomes overwhelmed. Their relationship goes beyond lust, and we see true intimacy. Both can be their worst with each other and still find complete and utter acceptance despite mistakes made. Hashtag soulmates. Like I said, the whole scene was just magnificent. I still stand on the fact that I think that when Uncle Clifford finds out about Big Teak, that is going to hurt her, that is going to make her feel some type of way, and things are going to go right back to shit again. And I feel like that's going to lead Lil Murda to head back on the road and go back on tour. I think it's going to be the combination of Ernestine passing and that confirmation of that, and the confirmation that Uncle Clifford is alone. He has nobody now. He's losing his club. He's lost his grandmother. Then to find out the one man that he truly loves and cares for during his time of absence was with somebody else that he really truly loved as well. Now, it might not have been on the same love level as he has with Clifford, but to know that you was with another nigga that whole time, and that, say for instance, if he would have did what he did, would you even be here right now? So I'm telling y'all, that's going to cause a problem. That's going to cause a problem and a rift, and that's what's going to push Lil Murda to go back on the road. There's a moment in every mother's life when they must look in the mirror and ask, am I a mother or am I me? Seeing Mercedes give the car keys to Terica and allowing her to decide which direction Chuckalisa or Jackson, backwards or forwards, transforms them both. And in that scene, Mercedes took the opportunity to start breaking the cycle of this controlling mother figure like she had with Patrice, and allowing herself to take a step back and be more of a mother instead of a dictator when it came to Terica and Terica's life choices. Then at the end of the episode, we know that we saw Autumn head over to Keyshawn's house to give her a gift for baby Regal. And Katori writes, during her dark fairy tale, Haley speaks of her baby drowning in her tears, which echoes Terica splashing in a pool. Water in Jackson is a space for all the women to be cleansed of past mistakes so they may birth new versions of themselves for a brighter future. Oh, wow. I never would have caught that one. And lastly, she writes, both Haley and Mercedes were read and act as guides for young mothers at difficult crossroads. In motherhood, blood is often shed during the transitions as a child crowns and sees the light. In both moments, two women carrying children are being brought to the light. Oh, wow. That's some shit right there. I didn't even trip off that. They really use a lot of symbolism in this show. Oh, wow. Because Haley did have on red in the scene when she was in the baby room with Keyshawn. And that was her guiding, another young mother into the light to see that there's more ways, like she said, than one to get rid of a motherfucker. And then with Mercedes and Terica at the pool, it was, her not only guiding her daughter to figure out what she wanted, but who she wanted to be as a mother, meaning Mercedes. Do I want to be like Patrice, or do I want to be someone different? Magnifique. This was just an overall well-written episode. The acting and everything was just stupendous. It was wonderful. Let me know what you guys thought about everything Katori had to say as reference to breaking down this episode. Let's talk down below in the comment section. Make sure to thumbs up this video, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell button. I love you guys. See you on the next video. Bye.